Taking electronics apart is something that I do on a regular basis. They're my main source of shapes for my models, and so I'm constantly on the lookout for them. I must have taken hundreds of them apart by now, from printers to laptops, DVD readers, and to be honest, whatever I can get my hands on, either by finding or getting them for pretty cheap. And over the years I got a huge collection of pieces from them. Now, from time to time, I come across something that ends up not really being what I was expecting. Welcome to Cut, Transform, Glue, and to another Greeblie Honey episode. So, on my way to the shop, there's a thrift store that I've always enjoyed going, and that's full of old stuff that are great for junk bashing projects. I went there just the other week, and I found this very intriguing vintage camera. While the price wasn't exactly a steal, old cameras are usually full of good shapes and pieces, so I decided to take my chances. Now, was it a good find? Well, by the end of the video, you'll be able to judge for yourself. Now, I don't usually go for these electronics expecting to use every single piece. For instance, the body of the camera is very weird and asymmetric, so I had hopes mostly for the insides and a couple of buttons from the outside. Now, some of them had some weird effects, so I decided to stop messing around and go for the destruction. I could tell by the placements of the screws that this was going to be like a puzzle, with some bolts in weird places hard to reach. So I knew right away that I had a long day ahead of me, and I got going as soon as possible. And while I'm definitely not keeping everything, I like to take my time and properly separate every piece for that great knolling shot that I love so much, so I try my best to not destroy the shapes. Now, of course, a lot of patience is needed for that. Just gotta remember to breathe and be gentle. Well, most of the time. And I kind of forgot to show you guys this first step, but I actually begin every tear down with some good wipe with rubbing alcohol. You never know where these old things were before you found them. Then my tactic is to go little by little, removing whatever you can. You might try to remove some big shapes at first, but there's always a hidden bolt somewhere, so take small steps. Or maybe not, you can always put a bomb on the thing and kinda blow the whole thing up and see where it lands. Could be fun on a video. But yeah, for instance right here, this top section with the lenses, and frankly the best Greeblies of this whole thing, it was stuck there, would not come off, so I just moved to a different spot. I kept going, slowly progressing and freeing parts and panels from the camera's body, and eventually I got to this point where I had the whole camera separated into smaller segments. And this is when I realized that there wasn't much going on in terms of useful shapes. I mean, there's a cool lens assembly that could be fun on a robot, or maybe a satellite, a spaceship or something, but most of the insides of the camera was metal, and while that might look amazing on video, this is mostly thin metal, probably aluminum or something like that. Very fragile, and I don't like working with it. But there's always hope, so I kept going. Now, PCBs are usually full of those interesting little shapes, like the ones I've been using on the Merchant Fleet series. Some of you guys might remember these builds, and you should check them out if you haven't already. But yeah, I was hoping to find them and decided to take the PCB out first, only to find that this one really didn't. None of those easy to remove pieces that I love using. Most of what I could find would break if I tried prying them out, and I know I could use a soldering iron for this, I just don't have the time. Yeah, really disappointing. But there were also some cool findings, like this DC motor. Not only it is super tiny, it can be incorporated on my projects, but also it already features this gear reduction thing, which I don't know the name of, which could be used to spin an antenna, for instance. And there was also this crazy spinning wheel of beauty, which looks phenomenal and will definitely be featured on a future project. It was beautiful enough as it was straight from the camera, but looking closely at it and further breaking it down revealed some amazing features on the inside. I can see a NASA inspired spacecraft like the Voyager, combining these amazing pieces and the lenses. There's a lot of potential right here. Thumbs up if you like this idea. Then I broke the lenses assembly down a little further, first removing the PCB that was attached to it, and found some good looking tiny little pieces. Like the light sensor, the heart of the camera. Funny to see how tiny it is compared to the rest of it. I showed you guys before my collection of lenses and sensors. I have much more than I will ever use, but I'm definitely keeping this one. And I took one extra thing out of the lenses assembly, this intricate mechanism that I believe controls the amount of light that gets to the sensor. Fascinating to see. I mean, if you're as nerdy as I am. And this is how far I'm taking this apart. I want to keep the lenses as it is right now and wait to see if a cool idea comes to my mind for a project with it. Maybe the NASA craft, we'll see. I took a few extra pieces from it, like the tiny little buttons I showed in the beginning of the video, and some metal shapes that I saw potential on. And then I jumped straight into the knolling, which is my favorite part of any teardown. And this is a good moment to thank my patrons and YouTube members. With their support I can keep going with this channel, but I could still use some help. So if you love what I do right here on this channel and you want to join this amazing group of people, maybe get on Discord and share ideas and techniques, check the links below. I'll be honest, I was hoping to get a little more out of this camera. I could tell that most of the plastic shell shapes were weird and not really useful for my style of builds anyways, but yeah, the insides were a bit disappointing. I know this sounds kinda crazy, but I'm throwing away a ton of shapes that I know I won't be using. I got years of experience in hoarding right here. So yeah, don't feel bad for these shapes. Still, there was some interesting things like the tiny little DC motor that I can't wait to use on a project. But I want to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know in the comments what you think of this camera and the pieces I found inside it, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Bye.